Hey everyone, Peter Finch here and welcome down to the Swing Quest channel, where today we are talking about rotation in the golf swing. So if you are struggling, turning away from the ball, turning through the shot, this video is very much for you. So the reason this is important within the golf swing is the turns of the body give several different factors essential to hitting good shots. It allows the creation of power, it allows the creation of timing as you move through the ball. If you are new to the Swing Quest channel, please consider hitting the subscribe button as well. We're well on our way to 100,000 here on the platform, and it'll be great to have you along for the ride and to make us a part of your improvement within golf. Now, roughly speaking, the golf swing is made up of two turns. The turn back away from the ball and the turn through as you strike the shot. And we're going to be talking about these big, wide movements. Now, there's a lot of different parts of the body incorporated within the turns, but we're not going to break them down too individually. We're going to make sure that this is as wide-ranging as possible, which will hopefully make your swing as wide-ranging as possible. Yeah. Turning freely in the backswing is something that actually regresses as you get older as well. Now, in an ideal world, you'll have a full range of motion, but realistically, the chances are you might not have access to a free-flowing backswing like Rory McIlroy. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about a few little tricks and tips that you can use to extend the backswing or the through swing. Now, first up in the backswing, you're meant to turn more than just your shoulders. The lower half needs to be enabled to rotate as well, or you're simply not going to get an adequate amount of turn. And this all starts with what you're doing with your feet and with your little tippy toes, because if they're pointing straight forward, what that's going to do, it's going to lock the knees into this forward position and actually make rotation of the hips a little bit more difficult. The easiest way to test this out is if you take your normal posture and if you point your toes in towards the golf ball and try and turn around, you'll notice that the restriction starts with the lower body. And then the second thing I want you to do is if you turn your toes all the way out, so they're fanned out like a duck, and then try those same rotations, I think you'll be quite surprised at how freeing that motion is. So simply, your lead foot, the one closest to the target, make sure you're fanning that out so it's pointing a little bit more towards the target and not towards the ball. You don't want to go with the full way, you don't want to go to that 90-degree mark, you don't want it here, let's stick it straight in the middle. So having that lead foot down towards the target allows the lead hip and the lead knee to rotate and move more freely out of the way. But also, it can help the backswing. So rather than having the trail foot pointing straight forward, which has been a staple really of golf coaching for a long time, because the thought process is you need to restrict, control this hip a little bit more. And in some cases, it is warranted. Like, you don't want a hip which is flying all over the place. However, if you just allow that trail foot to also be fanned out just a little bit, that will allow, again, a little bit more freedom in the lower half turn, which will result in more of a backswing rotation as well. So the first place to look, if you are struggling with your turns, look at your feet and how they affect your lower body. Oh, an actual strike. Go on then. Go on then. Wow, it's a tough pin today. So that's something that you can do with your lower half, and we'll actually touch on the lead foot a little bit more in a moment. But let's talk about the upper half as well and how that interacts, because it's very easy to think of the lower half and the upper half of the body as separate entities, as though they're operating independently. Now, I have a little bit of news for you. Your pelvis is connected to the rest of your body by something called your spine. And if those two were to ever separate, then you've probably got bigger issues. So this is why you can't separate what is happening with the whole body. There are things with your lower half that will affect your upper half, and there's things happening with the upper half that will affect your lower half. So please always bear that in mind. So we've worked on our feet and we've allowed our hips a little bit more freedom of motion, but how can you get the sensation of what you want your upper body to be doing? Something I want you to pay attention to is, let's say, Rory McIlroy in his backswing. So one of the longest players on tour absolutely smashes it. And the rotation that he has in his backswing and his through swing is absolutely ridiculous. But let's have a look at someone who also hits the ball a million miles, Jon Rahm. Now, his backswing is notoriously short. Now, what that means is his arm position on his backswing, it looks like he's only taking it back halfway. Now, in reality, what is happening is his upper half turn is still quite substantial. My point is, if you only can get your arms to, say, like a 3/4 position or a half position, that might not necessarily mean that you're not turning your body adequately. So we're not going to be talking too much about the club being parallel or arm positioning. We are going to focus mostly on what your torso is doing, what the main trunk of the body is actually able to do. So here's a nice way to see how much range of motion that you have. If you take your grip as normal to begin with, get set up to the golf ball, lead toe splayed out, trail foot splayed out as well a little bit. Then take your bottom hand off the grip, place it just on the side like this, and then try and get your right hand above your head. So turn away, turn away, turn away. Now, if you can get your right hand up into this position, just notice what has happened to the shoulder rotation. It's fully turned, the torso has rotated, and the center of my chest is pointing away from the target. So what this is really testing is the back, it's testing the trail shoulder, just to see what range of motion that we have on. So to advance this drill, if you just repeat, trail hand up, and then just bring your lead hand to match, take your grip. You can see here, I've got a fully rotated position. It's just a great way to get the sensation of what this is going to look and feel like. If you need some more visual cues, a great thing to use are alignment sticks. Now, just a couple. The first one, if you loop it through your belt loops as so. If you're wearing trousers that don't have belt loops, shame on you. And pop the second alignment stick across the shoulders. Now, what we want to see is a rotation where the upper body is outracing the lower body. But please notice that both have still turned. We're looking for the upper body, the shoulders, to have rotated about 90 degrees, and for the lower body and the hips to have rotated about 45. So you've got that difference. And that is a real simple static drill that you can do anywhere to get the feeling of what that rotation is like. Now, I mentioned that we'd touch once again on what is happening with this lead foot, because again, if you're struggling to get that extra little bit of rotation, there is something that you can do to just give you a little bit more leeway. So you're in the setup position, you're turning up to the top, you're struggling to get that full rotation. If you allow the lead heel to raise off the ground, so imagine that you're just up onto your toe a little bit on that lead foot, this will allow you more range of motion within that backswing. Now, this is something that I use within my own technique. It's something which has been around for literally centuries. It was an essential part of fundamental coaching back in the day, from the 1820s all the way up to the 1970s, and then it started to be replaced with more of a static lead foot. However, if you just allow it to lift, allow it to drift upwards, it will give you more rotation. And with this, I can impart a little bit of practical knowledge of understanding, because like I mentioned, I have done this in my own swing, and it has enabled me to get more backswing rotation. So it's tried and tested. Now, something that you can implement within your setup, which can help enable a little bit more backswing turn, is something called tilt. Now, tilt should happen naturally. As you get set up to the golf ball, and as your trail hand goes lower on the grip, what should happen is the right shoulder drops a little bit lower than the left for a right-hander. Now, this puts my spine angle in a slightly tilted position. As I turn away from the ball, I want to be maintaining that tilt. If I start to move towards the target here, that is going to disrupt how I rotate. Now, a great drill to get this feeling, again, just with an alignment stick, you can use a club for this as well. If you pop one end on your nose and let the other one fall in between your legs, get into the golf posture, tilt away until the inside of the leg is touched by the alignment stick, and then keep that relationship and turn away from the target. Now you'll notice here how I've managed to get that full rotation and I've managed to maintain my spine tilt. So as mentioned, you can do it with a club, get the turn, get the feeling, and then just pop your arms in position. Now a few drills like that should get you the sensation of where you need to be. So guys, a huge thank you for watching. If you do want to continue your swing quest and find out more about how you can improve your backswing and through swing rotations, check out these videos here.